Part 1. Silence as the first mask of power. Silence is not emptiness. It is not the absence of thought, nor the absence of presence. It is a weapon sharper than any blade, because silence forces others to reveal themselves while you remain unreadable. Machiavelli understood that the one who speaks less always controls the rhythm of conversation, the weight of interaction, and the balance of perception. When you do not immediately fill the air with explanations, justifications, or confessions, you create a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. People rush to fill it with their own words, their own insecurities, their own admissions. In silence, they reveal themselves, while you remain hidden. To be silent is not to be weak. The weak man is loud. The insecure man seeks to declare his worth constantly, hoping his voice will drown out the doubts inside him. But the strong man is silent because he already knows his value. He does not explain himself. He does not plead to be understood. He does not seek approval through constant speech. His silence is a fortress, and from behind those walls, he chooses only when to open the gates. The respect that silence commands comes from scarcity. Words are cheap, everyone has them, and most spill them recklessly. But when you ration your speech, when every word you speak feels weighed, measured, deliberate, then others begin to lean forward. They listen more carefully, not because of what you are saying, but because of how rarely you say it. Silence makes your voice rare, and rarity is power. A man who cannot keep his mouth closed cannot keep his secrets, and a man without secrets is easily controlled. This is why rulers, generals, and leaders of every age cultivate silence. They let others wonder, what is he thinking? What does he know? What are his plans? That uncertainty becomes your shield. People cannot attack what they cannot see. They cannot predict what they cannot measure. Silence, therefore, is not passivity, it is active defense. Consider also the strategic weight of silence in conflict. A man insulted who responds immediately, who defends himself with words, has already lowered himself. He plays the game on his enemy's terms. But the man who remains silent forces his enemy to question whether his attack even landed. He begins to doubt himself. Did he not hear me? Did he not care? Did I make myself look foolish? Silence reverses the humiliation. It places the burden back onto the aggressor. To master silence is to master tension. Most cannot bear it. They break it with chatter, laughter, or forced explanations. But if you can hold the silence, if you can stare into it and not flinch, others will buckle first. They will scramble to escape it, often by surrendering information or giving ground. Silent power works not because it is passive, but because it is unbearable to those without discipline. So the first mask of power is silence. Train yourself to speak less, to answer slowly, to reveal little. Let others interpret your pauses as depth. Let them project meaning into your silence. Often, what they imagine will grant you more power than any words you could have chosen. Part 2. Mystery as the shadow of authority. If silence is the mask, mystery is the shadow that follows it. Power is not simply about what is shown. It is about what is hidden. A man without mystery is a man without depth. Once everything about you is known, once all your motives are clear, once your emotions are predictable, you cease to inspire respect. You are a solved puzzle, and solved puzzles are discarded. Machiavelli warns us, men are quick to judge and quicker to dismiss. If you show them your whole self, they will strip you down in their minds, categorize you, and then feel no fear of you. To remain powerful, you must remain partly unknowable. You must move in ways that resist easy interpretation. Mystery keeps people cautious, hesitant, on edge. They do not know how far your reach extends, nor what you may do next. And it is in that uncertainty that respect takes root. Mystery thrives in contrast to transparency. The modern man has been taught to be an open book, to share his feelings freely, to always explain his motives. But what does openness buy him? It buys him vulnerability. It buys him weakness. He becomes readable, predictable, controllable. The Machiavellian man does not wear his heart on his sleeve. He keeps his heart locked away and shows only what serves him. His openness is strategic, never total. Mystery also magnifies perception. When little is known of you, every small detail takes on great weight. A rare comment, a subtle gesture, a single glance. These become amplified, interpreted as signals of something deeper. Others will invent stories about you, trying to fill the void. And often, these stories will place you in a position of greater power than you actually hold. This is the genius of mystery. It allows the imagination of others to work for you. Consider a ruler who is too familiar with his subjects. At first, they adore him for his openness. But in time, they begin to see his flaws. They see his doubts, his contradictions, his mistakes. Familiarity erodes respect. But the ruler who remains distant, who is rarely seen, who speaks seldom, who moves unpredictably, he becomes larger than life. His mystery creates awe. People cannot disrespect what they do not fully grasp. Mystery also serves as protection. When no one knows the full measure of your thoughts, no one can predict your strategy. When no one knows your true desires, they cannot manipulate you. To move through life without mystery is to move naked through a battlefield. To clothe yourself in mystery is to wear armor that cannot be pierced. So you must cultivate the art of being seen and not fully known. Speak, but leave sentences unfinished. Act, but without explanation. Appear, but not too often. Let absence do what presence cannot. A rare appearance, wrapped in silence, radiates more authority than constant exposure. Respect is not given to the loudest, nor to the most open, but to the man who is hardest to read. Mystery makes you untouchable. It creates an atmosphere of power around you, a sense that you are not just another man, but something more. And that more, though undefined, is precisely what commands respect. Part 3. Restraint, the discipline that terrifies. The world worships speed. Men are urged to act quickly, respond instantly, and never hesitate. Yet, Machiavelli would remind us that great rulers, warriors, and thinkers are not slaves to speed, but masters of restraint. The disciplined pause, the refusal to act impulsively, terrifies others more than any loud declaration of strength. Restraint is the ability to hold back when provoked, to conceal the fire that burns within, and to unleash it only when the timing benefits you. Consider the man who is easily provoked. His enemies know how to control him. With a word, they set him aflame. With a gesture, they can predict his response. He becomes their puppet, dancing to the strings of their insults and manipulations. But the man of restraint, the man who hears the provocation yet does not move, who absorbs the insult with no visible reaction, that man cannot be controlled. He is like a fortress with no cracks. His silence and composure become unbearable to his enemies, for they cannot read whether he plans to strike, forgive, or ignore them entirely. Restraint is not weakness. Weakness is when you cannot act. Restraint is when you choose not to act. These are worlds apart. Weakness paralyzes. Restraint is calculated strength. It is the general who does not rush his troops into battle but waits for the terrain, the weather, and the morale of the enemy to decay. It is the ruler who does not crush rebellion at its first spark, but lets the conspirators reveal themselves fully before striking once, decisively, leaving no embers to reignite. To live with restraint is to live with an aura of control. Others begin to fear what you might do because you never show your hand too soon. They sense that you have the ability to act, but the fact that you choose not to act makes your eventual move seem far more dangerous. Like the archer who holds his bow drawn but does not release, your restraint forces others to tremble in anticipation. They weaken themselves under the weight of uncertainty. In daily life, restraint is the art of not giving away your emotions. Anger, desire, jealousy, even enthusiasm. When you reveal these freely, others can map your soul. They can manipulate your longings, exploit your anger, or predict your loyalty. But when you restrain emotion, when your face is calm even under insult, when your voice is steady even in victory, then no one can pierce your armor. Your power grows not only from what you do, but from what you withhold. The man who commands respect is not the man who boasts of his victories or parades his passions. It is the man who sits still, calm, silent, holding more inside him than others can guess. To restrain your words, your reactions, your impulses, this is to live above the chaos of men. It is to be feared not because of noise, but because of silence. Restraint terrifies because it is unanswerable. It is a strength that requires no display, only presence. To cultivate restraint, you must train yourself to endure discomfort without reaction. Sit in silence when others demand response. Smile faintly when others expect outrage. Delay decisions when others expect immediate agreement. In time, you will learn the secret. Most of your enemies will destroy themselves if you do not rush to meet them. Patience is the executioner's greatest blade. Part 4. The weight of absence. There is power in being present, but there is often greater power in absence. A man who is constantly visible, constantly speaking, constantly inserting himself into every discussion, soon loses weight. He becomes ordinary by exposure. Familiarity erodes mystique. When men see you too often, hear you too often, and know you too well, they begin to treat you as they treat any other man. The king who mingles like a commoner ceases to be feared. Absence, however, magnifies presence. When you deliberately withdraw, when your appearances are rare and carefully chosen, your value increases. People speculate about you in your absence. They wonder where you are, what you are doing, what thoughts you keep hidden. Your return then becomes an event, something charged with meaning and weight. A single appearance after long silence can have more power than 1,000 constant speeches. This principle is not about arrogance, but about strategy. Power is not measured by how often you can fill a room with your noise. It is measured by how much weight your presence carries when you finally choose to appear. If your presence is constant, it is taken for granted. If your presence is scarce, it becomes precious. Machiavelli understood that rulers should guard their image like a treasure. Appear too frequently, and you will expose flaws, contradictions, and vulnerabilities. With absence, those flaws are hidden. People imagine you stronger than you are. They project qualities onto you that you may not even possess, because mystery thrives in the spaces where knowledge is lacking. Absence gives them the room to mythologize you, and men respect myths far more than they respect facts. Absence also creates hunger. Consider the man who speaks rarely in council. When he does finally speak, his words are treated with reverence. His silence beforehand has primed others to believe that what he says must be valuable. In contrast, the man who speaks constantly is ignored, for his voice blends into the noise. Scarcity breeds value, and absence is the engine of scarcity. But absence must be used with care. Too much absence, and you risk irrelevance. Too little absence, and you risk being dismissed. The art lies in balance. Present enough to be remembered, absent enough to be missed. The wise ruler, the disciplined leader, and the cunning strategist all master this balance. Absence is also protection. By not always being available, by not always being within reach, you limit the chances for others to harm you. Enemies cannot attack what they cannot find. Rivals cannot undermine a man who does not give them constant material. Distance shields as much as it strengthens. The weight of absence is, therefore, the weight of mystery. You must train yourself to withdraw deliberately, to resist the urge to always explain, to always appear, to always answer. By disappearing strategically, you will loom larger in the minds of others. They will wonder more about you, respect you more, and fear you more. The unseen man is often the most powerful, for his shadow grows in his absence. Part 5. The Theater of Appearances. The world does not judge by truth. It judges by appearances. This is not cynicism but law. Men are creatures of sight before they are creatures of reason. They rarely pierce beyond what they see, and even when truth contradicts the mask, they cling to the mask if it comforts them. Machiavelli knew this well. Power is not about what is, but about what appears to be. A prince need not be merciful, only appear merciful. He need not be religious, only appear religious. He need not be generous, only appear generous. Men will obey appearances as if they were realities, for their eyes are too easily deceived and their minds too easily comforted. The ruler who appears virtuous while concealing vice is far stronger than the ruler who displays his vice openly in the name of honesty. The theater of appearances is, therefore, not deception but survival. If men judge you wrongly because you refuse to craft an appearance, you have only yourself to blame. To live in power is to live on a stage, and every gesture, word, and silence is a performance. Even the man who claims to despise theater still acts. He merely acts poorly, without awareness of the audience. The trick is not to overact. A man who performs too boldly, too loudly, too often, exposes the fact that he is performing. Then suspicion grows, and appearances crumble. The art is in moderation. Appear virtuous, but not saintly. Appear confident, but not arrogant. Appear generous, but not ruinously so. Appear firm, but not cruel without cause. Men are drawn to balance. They sense strength in the ruler who embodies it. Appearances must be managed not only in what you show, but also in what you conceal. The enemy of power is transparency. If others know your thoughts, your plans, your fears, and your desires, they can use them against you. To conceal is to control. Your mask should never be dropped in public, no matter how trivial the matter may seem. To be unreadable is to be invulnerable. Yet, appearances also demand occasional displays. If you never show anything, men will imagine weakness. If you never perform, they will believe you irrelevant. So choose your moments of display carefully. When you are generous, be generous when eyes are watching. When you are merciful, be merciful when rumor can spread your act farther than the act itself. When you are firm, let it be known by one decisive strike that silences doubt. One act performed before witnesses is often remembered longer than 1,000 acts in secret. But beware, appearances once crafted must be maintained. If you build the reputation of justice, do not shatter it casually. If you appear calm, do not allow rage to seize you in public. If you appear pious, do not expose your impiety to the mob. Consistency in appearances gives men confidence. Contradictions invite contempt. They do not need you to be virtuous, only consistently masked. The moment the mask slips, they will not forgive the reality revealed beneath it. Think of the ruler as an actor. His court is his stage, his people his audience, his enemies the critics who scrutinize his every movement. The wise actor knows that he need not live the role he plays. He need only play it convincingly. A tyrant who pretends to be a father of the people will hold his power longer than a just man who refuses to stoop to performance. This theater extends beyond rulers to all men who seek to navigate life with power. In business, in politics, in personal dealings, it is appearances that determine whether you are respected, trusted, or feared. Competence without the appearance of competence is ignored. Strength without the appearance of strength is doubted. Virtue without the appearance of virtue is dismissed. Therefore, the theater of appearances is not optional. It is the law of survival. If you wish to be taken seriously, you must learn to act. If you wish to be feared, you must learn to withhold. If you wish to be respected, you must learn to display carefully chosen virtues. Truth is irrelevant. Men do not care what you are, they care what they see. And what they see, if you are wise, is entirely in your control. Part 6. The silence that rules men. Speech is common. Silence is rare. Speech is noise. Silence is weight. The man who speaks constantly is like water dripping from a faucet, heard, but ignored. The man who holds silence in his mouth is like the thundercloud. Men wait for him, anticipate him, fear him. They sense that his silence means more than their chatter. Silence is not emptiness. It is pressure. It is the air before a storm. Machiavelli understood that rulers are obeyed less because of their words and more because of the aura that surrounds them. Words can be twisted, argued with, dismissed. Silence cannot be refuted. A silent man forces others to fill the void with their own imaginations, and what they imagine is often more powerful than what you could ever say. Silence is not passive. It is active domination, for it controls the minds of others without uttering a syllable. Consider the council chamber. 10 men argue loudly, each speaking over the other. One man says nothing, sitting with calm eyes, listening, unmoved. Slowly, the attention shifts to him. The others wonder what he is thinking, what judgment he is forming. They begin to measure their words against what they imagine he might say. He has spoken nothing, yet already he rules the room. When he finally does speak, briefly, simply, decisively, his words weigh more than all the noise before them. Silence intimidates. Men fear it because it cannot be negotiated with. You cannot persuade silence, cannot argue with it, cannot interrupt it. It sits in the room like a stone, unmovable, commanding respect by its very refusal to yield. Those who cannot master silence are enslaved to speech. They explain themselves, defend themselves, reveal themselves, and in doing so, they hand over their power. The man of silence reveals nothing. His enemies strike at shadows. His rivals grow insecure. His allies trust him more, for his silence makes him seem wise. But silence must be wielded with art. Too much silence breeds suspicion. If you are always absent from speech, men may think you weak or ignorant. If you never answer, you will be dismissed. Silence is not about muteness, but about timing. Speak rarely, but when you do, speak with precision. A single phrase, sharpened like a blade, delivered after long silence, can cut deeper than hours of argument. There are moments when silence is the highest form of speech. When insulted, silence turns the insult back upon the insulter, making him appear desperate for reaction. When accused, silence denies your enemy the satisfaction of your defense, leaving him to wrestle with his own words. When praised, silence makes the praise echo longer, for you do not diminish it with false modesty. Silence magnifies everything around it. Silence is also a shield. The man who speaks freely gives his enemies ammunition. Every word is a possible weapon against him. The man of silence leaves no such weapons. His thoughts are his alone, locked within. To others, he becomes unpredictable, unreadable, dangerous. They cannot prepare for him because they cannot anticipate him. Silence renders him unknowable, and what is unknowable is feared. Yet silence does more than conceal. It also builds mystique. Men begin to whisper about the silent man, to speculate about his hidden wisdom, his unspoken plans. They attribute to him intelligence he may not even possess, simply because he does not reveal enough to contradict them. Silence lets others build your legend for you, and a legend built by others is far more enduring than one proclaimed by yourself. To master silence is to master control. Speak only when it serves you. Withhold when it strengthens you. Make your voice rare, and it will be precious. Make your silence heavy, and it will be feared. Noise dies quickly, silence lingers. The rulers of men are not those who shout the loudest, but those whose silence bends others into obedience. Part 7. Power in Shadows. Why the unseen rules the scene. Power thrives not in the open, but in shadows. What is visible can be measured, confronted, challenged. What is unseen terrifies, for men cannot fight what they cannot name. Machiavelli's genius lay not only in understanding the mechanics of rule, but in understanding that fear of the unknown outweighs fear of the known. The sword you see before you is less frightening than the whisper of a dagger you cannot find. When power is too visible, it becomes vulnerable. A king who parades his armies endlessly invites envy, conspiracy, and eventual rebellion. But a ruler who conceals the true extent of his resources, who hides his strength behind modest words, or his cruelty behind a mask of calm, is far more formidable. His enemies guess, estimate, imagine, and imagination, unbounded, always exaggerates. The unseen becomes larger than reality. This is why mystery is a weapon. Once men believe they know you fully, they begin to predict you. Once they predict you, they begin to plan against you. But if they never know the extent of your power, your intentions, or your limits, they remain cautious, hesitant, restrained. You control them not with open force, but with the weight of uncertainty. History proves this law. The Roman Senate feared Caesar less when he commanded armies openly than when he began withholding his true designs. They suspected plots, but could not see them. The unknown frightened them more than the legions themselves. In the same way, modern power operates in shadows. Governments conceal, corporations obscure, men in authority show only fragments of their plans. Transparency is for the weak. Opacity is for the strong. But there is more. The unseen does not only rule the enemy, it also commands the people. Men crave leaders who seem to possess knowledge beyond their grasp. The prophet, the priest, the strategist. Their power derives not from what they reveal, but from what they conceal. Their silence, their mystery, their aura of unseen wisdom binds men to them. A leader who shows all is dismissed as ordinary. A leader who veils himself in shadows becomes myth. In personal dealings, this principle applies with equal force. Reveal too much of yourself to others, your habits, your thoughts, your weaknesses, and you become predictable, small, containable. Hold yourself partly in shadow, and others inflate your stature. They wonder what lies beneath the surface. They begin to ascribe to you qualities you may not even possess. You need not possess greatness, only the appearance of depth. The unseen fabricates itself in the minds of others. This is why silence, distance, and restraint matter. To withdraw is to magnify. To reveal little is to seem vast. A man who speaks endlessly is soon measured and dismissed. A man who withholds, whose true self is glimpsed only in fragments, appears infinite. Infinity inspires reverence. Thus, the law is simple. To command respect, you must live partly in shadow. Appear, but never fully. Speak, but never exhaustively. Reveal, but never completely. Let your power be sensed more than it is seen, your influence felt more than it is displayed. The visible fades, the unseen lingers. And in shadows, the throne of true power is built. Part 8. The final doctrine, silent power as the crown of respect. All paths converge here. The mask of appearances, the weight of silence, the control of shadows, each leads to the same truth. The greatest power is not force, nor wealth, nor charm, but command over perception itself. To control perception is to control reality, for men live more in imagination than in truth. Machiavelli taught that men are weak, fickle, selfish, and blind. They cannot bear too much reality. They want illusions, illusions of safety, of morality, of order. The ruler who feeds them illusions rules them. The man who withholds his true self, allowing only fragments to be seen, rules them. The prince does not need to be virtuous, only to appear so. The strong man does not need to speak, only to silence others with his stillness. The unseen terrifies more than the seen. But to master this art requires discipline. Silence is not natural. Most men spill words like water, revealing themselves without realizing it. Mystery is not natural. Most men crave to be understood and seen. Appearances are not natural. Most men believe honesty obliges them to show their flaws openly. These instincts destroy power. They make men weak, liked perhaps, but never respected. Respect belongs to those who stand apart. To those who embrace restraint instead of indulgence, silence instead of noise, masks instead of nakedness. To those who understand that the world is not a court of truth, but a theater of appearances. Men want to be liked. The few who abandon that weakness discover something greater, to be feared, to be respected, to be obeyed. And here lies the paradox. The less you reveal, the more men imagine you capable of. The less you speak, the more men weigh your silence. The less you show, the more they fill the gaps with myth. What is withheld grows larger than what is displayed. Mystery multiplies power, and silence engraves it in stone. Think of history's most enduring figures. The conquerors, the prophets, the thinkers whose shadows still stretch across centuries. They were not loud, but heavy. They were not transparent, but opaque. They cultivated distance, mystique, silence. Even their flaws became part of their legend, because they knew when to hide them, when to reveal them, and when to say nothing. They commanded imagination itself, and imagination made them immortal. This is the final doctrine of silent power. Do not seek to be liked, for liking fades. Do not seek to be understood, for understanding shrinks you. Do not seek to reveal all, for exposure breeds contempt. Seek instead to remain partly veiled, partly withheld, partly silent. Become a shadow that men cannot grasp, a presence they cannot predict, a depth they cannot measure. Respect flows not to the one who shouts, but to the one who withholds. Obedience bends not to the one who is transparent, but to the one who is mysterious. And power crowns not the one who reveals himself, but the one who rules unseen, commanding imagination itself. Thus, the art of silent power is not merely a strategy, but a crown. Wear it, and you will not need to beg for respect, it will be given. You will not need to demand loyalty, it will be offered. You will not need to fear enemies, they will fear you more. For the final law of power is eternal. Men fear what they cannot know, and respect what they cannot reach.